Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry, I can't. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, I can't ring the bell. It isn't here, so we'll just have to pretend that we have a bell. And I would appreciate it. Our invocation is by Robert Broom. Robert, would you come up?
Sure, let's pray. Father, we are so thankful to be together. We just thank you for health and for life. And we I just bless both Rotary clubs, and I bless the people here to just not just survive, but to thrive. And we thank you for the food we're about to eat. We ask you to bless that to the nourishment of our bodies. That's to your service. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Robert. I want to officially welcome all of our members and the Thursday Club members to this meeting. It's good to have everybody back together again. And of course, the hope is that we will be able to do this more often in the coming months. And now, if you will, please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, does anyone have any visitors that you would like to introduce at this time? Cliff?
A few weeks ago, I had Robert Knowles as my guest, and we were out at the salt block, and Robert's back looking at Rotary again, and we hope to get him to be a member, and we're glad to have Robert with us.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
I'd like to introduce my guest today is my son-in-law, Randy Ortega. Randy and my daughter Clara were married last October at a pandemic wedding. And so I have stories to tell from here on. But Randy and Clara have recently moved back to Charlotte, Hickory. And we're just glad to have these young folks coming back to Hickory and setting up their lives here. Randy is a brand new Rotarian graduate in graphic design. Is working several part-time jobs right now and is looking for full-time graphic design. So we'd like to welcome Randy to the back.
Yes, please.
Oh, me? Okay, sorry. I'd like to introduce my guest, Louise. Louise is a student and president of the SGA at CDCC. He's also involved in several marketing businesses, has a photography business. If you have ever been to Las Isabelas in downtown, he's been involved in social media for that restaurant, and I recommend you go to have a chips and walk. It's really good. And he's also interested in checking out Rotary and seeing possibility of even is an Interact or Rotaract at the college level, maybe building a Rotaract, building a connection from the student side.
Well, hearty welcome to all of our visitors. So one more, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome back the audience. Most of you probably remember Jeff from several years ago. Was been a long-term member, helped the soccer tournament quite a bit. He's back in town now working with Carolina UNT, and hope to get him back into the club. So I remember.
Well, I just got his letter. Welcome back to the club. Yes.
So I'd like to introduce my wife, Evelyn, who's joining us here today from
Welcome. And now it's time for a report. As you know, we have the soccer tournament every year. We just finished it a few days ago. And I'm going to ask Gary Pope to come up and give us a little information on the results. Gary?
Yeah, we had the tournament last weekend in conjunction with CBYSA. Had 42 teams. The teams' ages were girls and boys, ages 10 to 14, and had quite a good tournament. The very last game of the tournament was the girls' 14-year-old championship, and it went to 2 overtimes and then to the penalty kicks. And I think the one team won by like 1 kick. So it was a nail biter down the end, but everybody had a good time. Had great help from the Rotary Club, had over 40 members participating, and which is really good because it is a high level of participation to make it easy. So it worked out real well. Everybody showed up and did their jobs, and a few people. Special thanks to Trigby Arneson, who assisted me with the tournament. Chris Cazell, who did the fundraising. Alan Jackson took care of the scoring. Ken Ferguson helped with the ads and the book. And Robert Broom with setup, tear down. Ron Swift with getting the meals. And hope I didn't leave anybody else out. Jeff Mackie took care of our legal requirements, but the tournament went real well. This was the 25th year for us. We've had 23 tournaments. We had a couple of years where the last year, of course, with COVID, and one other year we missed, but we've been doing this for 25 years, and I think we raised around 30,000. So considering all the problems with everything in the economy and COVID, I think that's pretty good.
Thank you. As the soccer tournament, one of the things that we use the proceeds for of the soccer tournament is scholarships that are granted to deserving students every year. And the scholarship committee has picked the winners for this year. They'll be getting the proceeds from the soccer tournament. I'll ask Jeff Mackie to come up and tell us who these recipients are.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for reminding me about the legal stuff there. I get the bill ready. Bill Broom is chairman of our scholarship committee. Bill picked here with us today, so he asked me to give you this information. I served on the committee along with Julie Packer, Sandy Harden, Mandy Hildebrand, Paul Caparosa. Our 2021 scholars are Chris Sarha, Brittany Saba from Bunker Hill, who will be attending UNC Chapel Hill. Amelia Slosser from Hickory Career and Arts, Magnet HS, who will be attending Savannah College of Art and Design. Jolie Young from Challenger Early College, who will be attending North Carolina State. And Joseph Cockman from Bandy's High School, who will be attending North Line. We hope to have each of these join us at a future meeting so they can thank us and share their future plans with us. Each student will get a $5,000 scholarship, which is payable over 4 years.
I hope we will be.
So are we dealing with now? These are 6 new.
No, 4 new.
4 new.
Yeah. Plus, we are still continuing the ones that have won before because they get a stipend every
Right.
year
So
for the
that-
full 4 years.
was it 16? 12 more. 12 more. 16. Oh, okay.
Okay. With the pandemic and COVID, we've had to change a lot of the ways that we do things in this club. And one of them is, we of course don't have the Sweetheart Ball, where we used to announce the Rotarian of the Year. We have a Rotarian of the Year, and I'd like to ask John King to come up and make the announcement.
Could I ask all past Rotarians of the Year of the Lake Hickory Club to come forward, please, to participate in the presentation? Okay. So. Okay. Okay, so after, just a reminder of there are certain qualifications for folks to win this award. And so I'd just like to read out the qualifications that this person needed to have in order to be nominated and awarded. So the nominee must be an active member in good standing with the club. Good. Must have made significant, sustained contributions to the club, as well as providing specific services and leadership to the club during the past. Must have made sustained contributions to the local community, exemplifying service above self. Must have been a member of the Rotary Club for at least 3 years. Has been a past president. At least 2 years has lapsed since since their term. And past Rotarians of the year are not eligible. So quite a high standard. And after last year, the dip in those standards, we have regained the high honors on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to read out some clues. It'll become, I think, fairly obvious after a few. And so we'll just have a little bit of a quiz. So I've got them numbered 1 through 10. So whoever has one, if you would go ahead and read it out.
This Rotarian has been a supporter of and a contributor to our club activity.
I need to come up here probably.
Repeat it. This Rotarian has been a supporter of and a contributor to our club activities.
This Rotarian coached many of his children's sports teams.
This Rotarian used to be a jogger.
This Rotarian is a longtime member of our club. This Rotarian played high school football.
I think this is a big clue. This Rotarian is a master negotiator. Some would say mediator.
This one will give it away. This Rotarian is the master of all songs 50s and 60s.
This Rotarian happens to be a past president of the club.
This Rotarian was not only a very good attorney, he was designated as a super lawyer by his peers.
And number 10, finally, and most assuredly least important, this Rotarian has the best damn neighbor in the world, and I don't mean Thomason. So, Jeff Mackie, if you would please stand forward.
See. Well, you know, this is quite an honor. There's an old adage that if you join an organization, oh, my wife. There's an old adage that if you belong to an organization long enough, that probably give you something. And wow, this is really something. I appreciate it. I have been in Rotary for over 40 years, and I'll have to say that during part of that time I served on committees but kept a low profile. I was on the board back in, year was that, Jenny Correll, back in the late 80s, 90s. Then one day Bill Lair came to me, actually 2 or 3 days he came to me and tried to talk me into becoming president. And I did, and it was a very meaningful experience for me. I just retired, and I really put my heart and soul into it. And we accomplished a lot of things. And I say we, all of you guys, became a club of distinction, which honored by our district, which hadn't happened in a long time and hadn't happened since then. We got 100% sustaining members for the first time ever. And membership was something that I was really concerned about when we started, because our membership numbers had dipped and we were getting kind of gray. So if Mandy Fitz here, no, Mandy Hildebrand. I went to her with flowers one day. It got down on my knees. I really did. And asked her to be head of our membership committee, which she agreed to do. And I think we made some real strides towards getting some younger people in. And Josh and Ingrid and Artie and a number of people that they sure are now in leadership positions, and I think that's great. And I wish them well, and I hope that they will take the job as I did, which is sort of like a part-time job, and work hard at it and try to improve things for our Rotary Club. So it was an honor to have been your president, and certainly an honor to receive this. Thank you very much.
Best paid neighbor in the world. So, the Rotary Club of Lake Hickory, Rotarian of the Year 2021, Jeff Mackie, and dedicated longtime member and past president who epitomizes service above self. Once again, let's thank them.
Thank you, John, and congratulations. Yeah. And now, with apologies to Dan Cheveldine, he's going to introduce our speaker. I apologize for cutting into your time. We haven't met a lot recently, and we had a lot of catching up to do. So, Dan, if you'll come up and introduce your speaker.
My pleasure. Thank you. I am pleased to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Jacky Eubanks. Jacky is the Director of Parks and Planning for Catawba County. And if you guys know what's going on, particularly down in the Cheryl's Ford area, it's keeping the planning department extremely busy. It's almost like it's a different world down there than where we are here. And I always ask Jacky, how long is it going to be before Charlotte consumes Hickory and the rest of Catawba County? But if you could, I appreciate if you could welcome Jacky.
So how many minutes do I have? Probably not too many. I'll try to be fast, but I'm so happy to see that you guys gave up Zoom to come out and hear me speak in person. I'm quite honored. And I'd also like to thank Gary for taking good care of my dogs all those years. Thank you, sir. I want to talk a little bit about history and actually some miracles and trends that we're seeing in Catawba County. Now, if I start out with the history of Charles Ford, particularly, we go back to about the year 2000 when the county created what's called 7 small area planning districts in the county. These are areas outside of the municipal areas of cities and towns of our county. And so in preparing those plans, Charles Ford, got a lot of attention. And when we had the steering committee formed, we said, look, go out in the region, take photographs of things you like and don't like. And when they came back, they obviously had some good ideas and good photographs of positive development that was occurring in the region. But one thing they said and made it very clear to us, we just don't want to look like Mooresville. And if any of you ever travel 150 going across the lake, it can take you an hour and a half to go 6 miles, depending on the time of day it is. So, in Lou, when he was on the Board of Transportation, thank you, Lou, for all your help with 150 and 16. And if Lou could have got 10 lanes on 150, it wouldn't be enough with the traffic, obviously, that we're beginning to see occur all up and down that corridor. But so what happened about 2003? Carolina Centers, in the form of Phil Hayes, who's the vice president of development, came to my office and said, look, we have 2,000 acres left on Lake Norman that we'd like to develop. And that will kind of close out their real estate holdings as far as large tracts of land in the Charlottesville community, because in essence, Crescent was kind of winding down their residential development. Of course, today, they've gotten back into it in a big way, as well as commercial development. So they said, so what are we gonna do with 2,000 acres? Well, I had been down to Baxter Village in Rock Hill, South Carolina, Burkdale, obviously in Huntersville and other areas like that. And I said, well, take 200 acres, create what's called a village concept, if you will, pedestrian walkability community with traditional neighborhood design, if you will. Do higher density development on 700 acres, which we called Key Harbor at that time, which is on Island Point Road, which obviously had lake frontage. Set aside 500 acres, which is Terrapin Creek, we call it, and actually that was game lands at the time, so to kind of balance out the higher density. And oh, by the way, we want 600 acres that you own on Lake Norman for a park. He kind of chuckled, but years later, 2010, that's exactly what happened. We got that 600 acres. And then the county decided, after all the plans had been done in 2007, we adopted a Unified Development Ordinance. And that was kind of consolidating our subdivision regulations, our floodplain regulations, our zoning regulations, and putting them all in one document. The county approved plans for those 2,000 acres. So had a great plan, land design out of Charlotte, did most of the work. Cutting edge design, cutting edge amenities for Catawba County, kinds of things we've never seen in Catawba County development. April the 16th, 2007, never forget it. Approved all of that. Well, guess what happened along about January of 2008? The bottom fell out and development went south. So far south, somewhere in South America, I guess it got lost. But anyway, we had also, county, and made the commitment to run water and sewer from the town of Catawba, some 15 to 20 miles, into the Charlottesville community. So we spent all that capital thinking development and good times are on the way. Well, I started second guessing myself. Did we miss it somehow? You know, was that vision too far out? Or you just need a new planning director, which might be part of the problem. About that time, Keith Hawthorne, owned a lot of car dealerships in Charlotte. He came to Crescent and said, look, you're not moving this property at all. Nothing's happening. I just sold about 11 car dealerships. I need to invest some capital. So he bought the village, the 200 acres of the village property. One of the maps, the second map that you have actually shows the detail of the village, and I'll get to it in a few minutes, how it's developed over time. And he struggled with it, folks. At that time, back in 2013, 14, and 15, we needed desperately grocery stores, drug stores, all kinds of services. Guess where those people were going to do all of their shopping? Well, it wasn't Hickory, unfortunately. It was Mooresville. See, the mentality in Charlottesville is that Hickory, even though it's 20 miles away, you think it's 200 miles away. And they'd go across the river and fight that traffic rather than come to Hickory. Not a good idea, because Hickory needs all the business it can get, right, guys and ladies? So we finally struggled, he struggled, and we got Publix to commit. Come there. And that was really the anchor tenant, if you will, of that 200-acre village center. Their first week in business, they did more business in that store than any store in North Carolina in history. So it quickly became clear that if you build it, they will come. The old worn out slogan. Long about that time, D.R. Horton came knocking. At that time, the largest home builder in the country. And they said, okay, we'll take down, you know, enough acreage in the project called Bridgewater, a portion of the village, to do the first single family development. And we all said, you know, that's nice. You're going to build 165 houses. given our history and the phone not ringing there for a few years, is it really happening? Can you really do it? And they felt like, oh yeah, in 5-7 years, we'll probably build out 165 houses. They built it out in 2 years. It went like hotcakes. And you know what we found out? The question was, why are you building here in Charles Fort? Why is it moving so rapidly? And the answer was, a couple can build the same house in Charles Fort, let's say 2,700 square feet, for $280,000. They can drive 6 or 7 miles to Huntersville, spend $350,000 for the same house. So they were willing to save $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 and drive that extra few mileage and take the time to get to work to save that kind of money. So that was a message, and it gave us confidence. Hey, this thing might finally work. So it began to build upon itself, and then Prestige came knocking in 2015, 16. So they bought the remaining acreage from Keith Hawthorne, and they're out of Cornelius, and things really began to accelerate in development. So 200 acres expanded, and it's still expanding today. If we look into the future and we think about, so where are we headed? If you take the map now and look at that briefly, I tried to get a larger font so you could read it. But that map, that first map, represents over 7,000 housing units that have been either planned, approved, under construction, completed construction, or in design phase right now. And what does 7,000 people mean in population? If you take our average household of roughly 2.5 persons per household, times 7,000, that gets you to a small city of 15,000 people. Right now, the population of Charles Fort is about 5,000 plus or minus. So it is talking about a significant amount of growth. And it also represents over 1 million square feet of commercial and retail space that is under development or in the process of being developed. So we're going to see significant development in the Charles Fort community over the next 10, 15, and 20 years. Now, Lou, we know very well that brings on all kinds of transportation pressures. And like I said, the 150 not scheduled for right-of-way acquisition in the Catawba County. The project is divided up into 2 phases. One phase is from Greenwood, which is right there at Midway Marina, carries you over the lake to Highway 21, just past 77 in Mooresville. The other phase is from Greenwood all the way down to 16 and 150 interchange. So our part of the 154 laning won't really get started until about 2027. That's when acquisition begins, and then construction hopefully in 2029. Things are already beginning to happen with right-of-way acquisition in the Mooresville area. So a lot of people look at us and say, are you guys, have you lost your head? Have you lost your brain? Have you lost your mind? Why in the world are you continuing to approve plans and projects creating more and more pressure on 150 and 16? What are you thinking? Well, Lou can tell you, as a former member of the board of transportation, that it's all about numbers, folks. It's all about statistics. It's all about accidents and number of vehicles per day, per hour that travel on your roads. We're in competition statewide. So again, a worn out statement, if you don't build it, they won't come. You don't build it, DOT won't come. You're not going to get road improvements until it gets almost intolerable. And that's the way it is. That's the reality. We've got to see development if we ever want to see total infrastructure improvements. It's never enough because we're always chasing improvements by the fact that demand is always way out in front in growth and development. But I think that's the reality of it. We invested in Charles Fort because we basically were stagnant in growth. And when your census figures every 10 years basically show a growth rate of less than 10%, In other words, if you're just treading water, all small businesses and larger businesses that are trying to grow and develop and build for the future. Marketing is everything, as we all know. Marketing and data drives growth. And if your marketing says your community is flat, you're not growing, you're not developing, it's extremely difficult to get more businesses to come in. Extremely difficult to get YMCA members to join and grow and develop like Nat's trying to do. So it's really about growth. But what kind of growth, right? It's got to be balanced growth. It's got to be quality of growth, right? We don't want growth just for the sake of growth. We want the projects to be well designed. We want walkable communities. We want the kind of growth and development that attracts young people as well as retirees. All of you have heard the statistics in here from Taylor Dillinger and others. I give him credit for some of the information he provided me. The age group from 18 to 44, you guys do a wonderful job of raising your children. You're teaching them family values and good ethics. You're teaching them work ethic because that's the type of ethics you guys inherited from your parents and your grandparents going all the way back to when Catawba County was founded. This county has always been known for ethics, for hardworking families. And it's paying off because people are noticing that in the region and in other parts of the nation. So that quality of life is so important. It has to be balanced. So I've talked a little bit about the history. I've talked a little bit about kind of the miracle, if you will, of Cheryl's Ford. Because believe you me, when I was sitting there and the phone wasn't ringing, and we were doing a lot of second guessing ourselves, and we spent all that money for water and sewer, we really were questioning, had we really missed it? But what are we seeing then now today? And let's focus on trends, and let's focus a little bit on housing. Quiz. How long does a house stay on the market now in the Hickory region today? How long does it stay on the market on average? Sir? 12 hours. That's about right. It's 1 month or less. Now, the average, it used to be 5 or 6 months, and real estate folks felt pretty good about that. But today, give you an illustration. A friend of mine, I won't name who it is, but in the Conover area, had a house he bought in 1950 for $120,000. Spent a little bit of money, cosmetics on it over the years. I think a month or two ago, put it on the market for $280,000. From 120 to 280. How many offers do you think he had over the weekend? Just give me a number. 20. That's pretty good. 20 is pretty good. 40. 40 offers. And he got 8% more than he asked for it because they were bidding on the house. Now, I used to hear this all the time in Cary, Huntersville, big regions of the state. You know, people putting a house on the market and getting 10,000 or whatever above the asking price. And I said, gee whiz, could that ever happen in Hickory? You can't even get the asking price. If you get 90%, you're lucky. And now today, we're seeing that. House on the lake. Put it on the market Friday morning. 20 offers that day. Sold the house. Again, 10% more than he was asking. They were fighting over it. It's unreal. Is it really real? How long is it going to last? This gas shortage doesn't kill everything, right? So the average sales price right now in the Hickory region is $281,000. The median is 218 going up to about 220 next month, probably. Now let me see. Let's do the math. The rule of thumb used to be you take 2.5 times your income, and that's the affordability rate that you can buy a house at. Well, if you say the average household in Catawba County is about 50,000 to round it all, family of 4. So what's 50 times 2.5? 125,000, right? Now, wait a minute. 281 and 125. Who's buying these houses? Who can afford these houses? So which two metropolitan areas of the, let's say, nation, do you think are actually moving here? Two large regions. Well, that's part of it. But okay, North Carolina. Which two regions are moving here now? No, in North Carolina.
Charlotte and Raleigh.
Charlotte and Asheville. Asheville? I thought everybody was leaving here going to Asheville. But it's Charlotte and Asheville. They can't afford the houses in Charlotte and Asheville. I just told you the example like Huntersville, the example that with the D.R. Horton project. So they're coming from in-state, but they're also coming from out of state. See, the folks in California have just about filled up Texas. That's hard to do. Texas is a big state, right, guys and ladies? So now they're moving east, and we sure don't want their politics. Not get too political. We don't want to. Maybe it's all right for some of you, but I don't know. I'm an Eastern North Carolina farm boy. I'm more conservative than that. Anyway, even though I got a son in Los Angeles, go figure. And a lot of it's coming from the Northeast, right? New York, Connecticut, obviously the northeastern states, obviously are moving here. Why would they want to move to Hickory area? What have we got that everybody else wishes they had? 4 seasons, quality of life, just talking about ethics, family values. Aren't you all kind of proud of that kind of reputation? Don't you think it attracts people? Our parks, I'm very prejudiced about our parks. There's a new park coming in Mount Creek. But it's parks, guess what? It's also about education. And we won't talk about education, how to improve it. Education is changing rapidly, isn't it? COVID has changed the world. My granddaughter, 12 years old, she hasn't been inside a classroom for a year and a half. Grades are great. Some kids are making it just fine at home on a computer. A lot of kids, folks, are struggling. My wife taught special ed for 32 years. Those kids had to have a lot of attention. If you get behind in kindergarten, with reading skills particularly, you never catch up. And I'm sorry, not to get political, and I've had COVID, folks. I've been there, done that. My wife and I, we survived. Blessed, thank you, Lord, that it wasn't that severe for us. My best friend in my church, my Sunday school class, that we caught it from, is still in the hospital 6 weeks later. Struggling in rehab hospital now. No feeling in his legs. So COVID is tough. COVID is tough, but it has changed the world, folks, hasn't it? And because our kids are wearing these things, socialization, contact, communication is struggling. Did y'all agree? I'm not trying to preach. I'm just making that point. What about in rentals? Good gracious. You think, well, okay, housing market, 1 month or less inventory. What about rentals? In the last 2 years, Dave can probably testify to this, over 1,000 units have been built in the Hickory area. And they're all obviously rented up. It doesn't make any difference what price point the rent is. They're still being rented as fast as they can put them on the market. So it's housing both in rental as well as home ownership. What about jobs for hire? You notice all the fast food restaurants? They're advertising $500 bonus, $12 starting pay. Let's do some more math. If a person, particularly let's say a young person, can make $220 a week unemployment from the state and get an additional $300 a week from the federal government, which is this supplement's supposed to last through September. Well, let me see. That figures out at about $13 or $14 an hour. So, am I going to stay home and watch TV and play video games? Or am I going to go to work and will make less money for working? not good. So the disparity obviously is there in our income levels and our ability to buy houses. So our home folks can't afford a lot of what's going on. It's outside folks who are moving in because of our reputation and because of our quality of life. Some of that's good, right? We want obviously diversity in our communities. That's the fact of life. We've got to get the jobs here that pay good wages so they can afford, obviously, the houses. So I'll finish with this. Hickory is a miracle. You look at the downtown Hickory and what has happened in downtown Hickory over the last year or two, three. You look at Conover, you look at Newton, people are rediscovering downtowns. And planners love to hear that, don't we, Dave? We love to hear that people are moving back to our downtowns and rediscovering what we have in our inner cities. Because I've always said, Hickory is the heart of this community. And when that heart is unhealthy, the whole body is unhealthy. And when that heart is healthy, meaning Hickory and growing and development like it is, and the rest of us prosper because of that. So with that, again, people love to come here because you folks have done a good job raising your kids, raising your family, building businesses that people want to be a part of. And you've got a great quality of life. And let's keep it going. Thank you.
Next week, we will not be meeting here on Tuesday, but on the 20th, we will be meeting here at the club with the Thursday club in another joint meeting. So if you will, please stand with me and let's conclude with the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you and have a good day.
Jacky, I appreciate it.